Surrounded by flowing lava, a group of 3 people was in a defensive stance. The blonde-haired boy holding a shield couldn't help but curse, "Damn it." The blonde-haired boy gritted his teeth, clearly in a predicament. Before the trio, a giant dragon-headed monster appeared, its mouth roaring with intimidating sounds. The blonde-haired boy said, "Defeat it." The monster's eyes widened, and the system screen displayed a notification. Fire Emperor Slorog's area breath skill will activate. The monster opened its mouth, spewing fire towards the 3-person team. The blonde-haired boy thought, with this attack power, we will all die. Unexpectedly, the flames were neutralized. Both the blonde boy and Fire Emperor Slorog were wide-eyed with shock, not understanding what had just happened. The team was wary of the appearance of the mysterious young man. The young man swiftly approached Slorog, easily neutralizing its attacks. The system notified, using the vacuum blade skill. Under the young man's attack, Slorog exclaimed, "What? You dare to reflect my fire?" The ring on the young man's finger glowed, and the system notified, "Giant's ring equipped, demonized skill activated." The young man was enveloped in red flames, his eyes also turning red, and his sword underwent transformation. The monster looked down at him, saying, "That power, you're no ordinary being, are you? But that's still not enough to defeat me." The young man thought, "I know this battle too well because that dragon has been my opponent for the 189th time already." In his hand, a blue stone and a blazing flower appeared. The system screen displayed notifications. Blue flame stone item, crimson fire lotus item. The young man thought, "The way to defeat Fire Emperor Slorog is very simple. Just fuse these 2 items." The items in his hand transformed into a lotus flower emitting cold air, and the system notified, "Fused items to create extreme blue fire lotus." The young man combined the lotus with his sword, charging towards Slorog. He thought, "Additionally, combine items to empower my weapon." The sword in his hand emitted blue and red flames. The system notified, "Enhanced fire attribute for the weapon." The young man thought, "And channel it into my weapon." Slorog was astonished, asking, "What is this heat?" The young man tiptoed towards Slorog, whose eyes were wide with disbelief. "As the Fire Emperor, even I can feel this heat." The young man raised his sword high, ready to strike down Slorog. The only way to defeat the Fire Emperor is to strike Slorog with a flame hotter than its own. The sword in the young man's hand struck down on Slorog with determination in his eyes. Everyone around was astonished. Slorog looked at him, saying, "Impressive, human. Before I die, tell me your name." The young man remained silent, seemingly not intending to reveal his name to Slorog. He turned his back to Slorog. Just before completely exploding, Slorog spoke again. "Aren't you going to introduce yourself? May the judgment of Dragon King Argidius not fall upon you." The young man finally spoke. "That's not it, Slorog. He looked at his gaming screen, thinking, "I can never have a meaningful conversation in the game's chat room. I don't know what to say to people I meet for the first time in my life." A voice pulled him out of his thoughts. The trio admired him. The green-clad boy said, "Thank you, you saved us." The blonde-haired boy continued, "You were amazing." Finally, the girl with pigtails asked, "Can I ask more about how you defeated that dragon in the battle?" The girl asked again, "And what about these goblins?" The young man, extremely embarrassed, pulled his hat down tightly, stammering for a long time without being able to say a word. Then he shouted, "I'm sorry," and ran off with the 2 goblins in tow, leaving everyone in bewilderment. He ran frantically while the 2 goblins hugged him tightly, thinking, I really appreciate that they tried to talk to me, but I couldn't do anything." No, it's not any of them. It's someone like Kiyoshiro, a lonely soul. Kiyoshiro sat eating lunch alone in the hallway corner, when 2 male students passed by and accidentally saw him. One was tall and skinny while the other was chubby. The tall skinny student pointed at Kiyoshiro and said to the chubby student next to him, "Hey, don't you study in the same class as him? Isn't he the loner? If you want, why don't we have lunch together?" The chubby student intervened. "Hey, you." Kiyoshiro was stunned, thinking, "Is he talking to me? Is he really talking to me?" Kiyoshiro continued to think, "Someone like me. They are really kind people. This is my first chance of the day to talk to someone." The tall skinny student looked at Kiyoshiro in confusion while Kiyoshiro was still trembling, lost in his own thoughts. "I have to say something. I must respond properly." Kiyoshiro nervously turned and shouted, "Even if we have lunch together." At that moment, he realized he had scared the 2 male students away. 2 female students passing by saw the scene and commented, "The white-haired girl first, who is that?" The chestnut-haired girl added, "You spoke too loudly." Kiyoshiro closed his eyes tightly, his face reddened with embarrassment, thinking, "The most miserable person is still me." Kiyoshiro always felt like he had no place at school. He went there out of habit, which was why he withdrew into himself. The only place he belonged was this room, or more precisely, in the game. Kiyoshiro lay on the bed, ready to log into the game world. Kiyoshiro gradually immersed himself in the game, Central Sword. The system screen displayed player information. Kiyoshiro Miyoshi. Player level 99, the lone gamer. The Vermo game Central Sword was notorious for being a terrible game, and the reason was, the giant goblin swung a huge mace, wanting to attack the sword-wielding people. The slicked back-haired young man raised his sword and said, "I will be the one to finish it off." The black-haired young man next to him protested, "That's not fair, you always get everything." The goblin's mace struck the ground forcefully, shattering it into pieces. The game's difficulty was too high. The young man with the short sword raised it high. Behind him were numerous corpses. The game's unreasonable settings sparked conflicts among players. The monster was split in two by Kiyoshiro's sword, and the most criticized aspect of this game was, Kiyoshiro tightly gripped the bloodstained sword in his hand, the lack of magic, making the game lack grandeur. Kiyoshiro smiled at the sword, thinking, but to him, it was the simplicity that he loved. Kiyoshiro turned to look at the blue flames swirling around and asked, "Who are you?" The system screen displayed a notification. "You are the first player to defeat Sarud, the celestial dragon star. To ensure your bravery is remembered in the future, please register your name." Kiyoshiro happily looked at the system screen and said, "It's done. I finally defeated it." Suddenly, Kiyoshiro heard a voice. "The boss has been defeated." A group of strangers was approaching. They discussed excitedly, "That's amazing, which team defeated it?" Another person added, "If they are strong, I'll ask to be friends with them." Embarrassed, Kiyoshiro teleported elsewhere. When the group arrived, they couldn't find him. The blonde girl was surprised. "Huh? Where did they go?" Kiyoshiro pressed the confirm button on the system interface, and the system responded immediately. "Accepted, Solo-sama, your name and achievements will be forever remembered in this world." Kiyoshiro sat alone in the field, watching the system interface slowly disappear, his lonely silhouette. Kiyoshiro lowered his head, hugging his knees, sighing, thinking, forever. What if the game shuts down tomorrow? Defeating it only makes me feel emptier. Suddenly, a system mailbox notification sounded, and Kiyoshiro looked up at the interface. The system interface displayed the content of the newly received message. "Hello, gamers. We are extremely grateful for your support and companionship in Central Sword." Kiyoshiro was surprised and slightly happy as the system interface displayed the following content. This time, Central Sword will receive an update to version 2.0. Night had fallen, darkness enveloping the entire neighborhood. Inside the house, Kiyoshiro was brushing his teeth while happily whistling. He thought, "It's great that the update falls on a Sunday. I can't even remember how many times I've defeated the final boss, but I'm really looking forward to experiencing it all over again." Kiyoshiro dried his mouth with a towel and thought, "Wait, if this update attracts new players, I might be able to make at least one friend." Kiyoshiro imagined people admiring him. The girl with long hair tied high on both sides said, "Senpai, shall we explore the new dungeon together?" The short-haired girl said, "That's not fair. I want to go too." The younger boy also said, "I want to adventure with Senpai as well." Kiyoshiro found his imagination amusing. "Nonsense, that's not going to happen. What about the game Central Sword?" Kiyoshiro thought, "No matter how many people join, in the end, it's still just me." A group of people looked at Kiyoshiro, whispering, "Huh, what did you just say? I didn't hear you. How about inviting him to play this Sunday?" "No, I've never talked to him. It probably won't work." Kiyoshiro fell into contemplation. He flopped down on the bed thinking, "Whatever, let it be." Kiyoshiro lay down, closing his eyes thinking, "I won't set high expectations. I'll sleep well and check the update tomorrow." Thus, Kiyoshiro fell asleep, the device for logging into the game placed on the table next to him glowing. Kiyoshiro checked the game's update progress as soon as he woke up, his eyes fixed on the computer screen. Kiyoshiro was filled with doubt. What is this? Kiyoshiro wondered, is Central Sword getting a lot of attention? As his computer screen displayed global trends, Central Sword ranked number 1. Kiyoshiro looked at the leaderboard, thinking, maybe the game is bad, but it's been a long time since there was an update, so it's getting some attention. Kiyoshiro clicked on the YouTube interface. A female reporter's voice on the screen said, "Please take a look at this. Do you see it?" Kiyoshiro was stunned, his eyes wide, looking at the screen. The female reporter continued, "This is the location of the Tokyo Tower before, but now." The female reporter went on, "As you can see, it has turned into a strange tower." Following the female reporter's lead, a bizarre tower emitting a demonic aura appeared. Kiyoshiro watched the screen switch to the reporter's helicopter. Below were city residents fearfully recording the tower with their phones. He thought, what is this? A 7-meter-high red tower, surrounded by a sinister red and black aura. With crystal ice spikes protruding from some parts of the tower, the residents all looked at it in curiosity. Kiyoshiro stood up and said, "This tower, I've seen it before." Kiyoshiro stared at the tower on the computer screen, confirming, "Yes, that's it." The system interface suddenly appeared, startling Kiyoshiro. Central Sword version 2.0 has completed the update. The female reporter in the news screamed, "What just appeared in front of me? Did everyone see that?" The system interface on Kiyoshiro's side continued to display notifications. The 30-day tutorial phase will begin now. Players need to complete the newbie tower. Kiyoshiro swallowed, his eyes wide as he looked at the words on the system interface. Kiyoshiro opened the door and stepped outside. Outside, people were gathering, pointing and discussing the appearance of the strange tower. On this day, along with the whole world, Kiyoshiro stood silently looking towards the tower. Kiyoshiro looked at the system interface displaying another notification. "Protect this world before the dragons destroy it." Kiyoshiro, with a face full of astonishment, thought, "My world has completely changed." Kiyoshiro was getting ready in front of the mirror, while the news was being broadcast on his computer screen. The male anchor said, "It has been over a week since the structures called newbie towers suddenly appeared worldwide." On the streets, large TV screens were also talking about this. These 8 days, likened to the creation event in the Bible, often called the Great 8 Days, have become a topic of conversation among everyone. On the screen, 2 guests were talking to each other. The female guest asked, "What do you think about this situation?" The male guest replied, "What's done is done. Right. The problem is that group calling themselves Heaven." Kiyoshiro pulled his hat down as he walked through the city's crowd. The female voice on the big screen continued, "You mean the people with special skills, right?" The passerby's phone screens showed images of the eerie tower, and the male guest answered, "Yes, they say this marks the beginning of a new era for truly strong people." Kiyoshiro adjusted his hat and looked up at the vast blue sky, with the male guest's voice still echoing, "And that's why they call it heaven." Kiyoshiro clung tightly to the leg of a white-feathered bird, which was carrying him as it soared through the sky. The system introduced Hi-Yard, a large bird species that can be used as a long-distance transportation by passengers clinging to its leg, with its ability to fly above clouds being a prominent feature. Kiyoshiro squinted with one eye as the wind blew his hair wildly, and he said with excitement, "It's so bright, the wind is so strong." Hi-Yard carried Kiyoshiro to an island, and the system displayed a notification, "Newbie Tower, Floor 1, the Forest, Secret Area Fuyudo floating." Hi-Yard dropped Kiyoshiro onto a rock ledge, and after safely landing, he waved goodbye and thanked Hi-Yard. "It's been a week since that day," Kiyoshiro thought as he turned to look at the forest. "I still haven't conquered the tower." The system displayed player information, Kiyoshiro Miyoshi, level 1 player from Ikyoko High School. Hearing a creature's cry, Kiyoshiro pushed through the bushes to find the source of the sound. He was surprised to see something wriggling in a net bag hanging from a tree. He thought, "It still exists." In the newbie guide, the chance of rare items dropping is very small. In the net bag appeared a pink-furred rabbit with teary eyes making sounds, a large ruby embedded on its forehead. Kiyoshiro was astonished. "It's a fluffy rabbit." The system interface displayed, "Fluffy rabbit, a rare rabbit species only living on floating islands, not dangerous but excellent at hiding and very rarely seen." In Kiyoshiro's hand appeared a dagger, and he said, "There's even an SSR fluffy rabbit." Waiting a whole week was worth it. The next step is to disassemble it for items. The fluffy rabbit trembled in fear, looking at Kiyoshiro with tearful eyes. He felt a bit reluctant but then said, "I'm sorry." Kiyoshiro cooked and enjoyed the rabbit meat after disassembling it. Sitting on a fallen tree trunk while munching on the roasted rabbit, he said, "It's delicious. I want to eat slowly but I can't stop." After finishing his meal, Kiyoshiro clasped his hands together in front of him, saying, "Thank you for the meal. I promise not to waste it." Kiyoshiro sincerely clasped his hands, and a green aura swirled around his feet. The system notified, "You have learned the escape rabbit skill. When facing an enemy, this skill will increase your speed." Kiyoshiro interacted with the system interface and thought, "Alright, my basic agility stat is 6, still level 1, but..." Sharp-clawed feet of some creature were approaching while Kiyoshiro was lost in thought. "If I encounter an enemy and the skill activates in terms of agility," he thought, "I will surpass level 10. The creature suddenly attacked, but Kiyoshiro swiftly dodged. The system notified, "Escape rabbit skill activated, agility attribute increased to 42. The beast searched around for Kiyoshiro, who had managed to hide in a nearby tree. He thought, "With this, I can keep my level as planned at 1. Kiyoshiro tightly gripped the red gem in his hand, thinking, "And conquer this tower." The ancient towering structure appeared, with a glowing orb at the entrance. Inside the tower, Kiyoshiro sat leaning against the wall, face down on his knees, thinking, I forgot something. The system displayed a notification. The final floor of the newbie guide is. Kyoshiro held his face, thinking, what should I do? Should I call someone? But I don't even know how to ask. Or maybe I'll just wait. Blushing, Kyoshiro muttered to himself, do you want to raid with me? No, I mean, fight together. If you don't mind, do you want to join my party? A male voice startled Kyoshiro. Hurry up, everyone. Kyoshiro turned to look at the source of the voice. It was the final stage. A young man carrying a wooden sword was followed by a group. The system displayed player information. Kago Shinjo, level 12 player from Ikyoko High School. Keigo said, follow my instructions to the letter. Panicked, Kyoshiro pulled his hat lower to hide his face, fearing Keigo would see him. He glanced sideways, thinking, those guys are really troublesome. Keigo, full of confidence, said, the required number of players has been reached. The final stage begins. Conquer the tower. A girl in the group asked, raid. What is that? The system displayed player information. Katsurugi Yao, level 7, Ikayoko High School, vice captain of the Kendo Club. 2 other male students in the group said in turn, boss, we were just lucky to get here, but now we really can't go any further. Keigo turned and shouted, quiet, everyone. With confidence, Keigo said in front of everyone's fear, I used to play Central Sword, so a newbie boss is nothing. I'll defeat it easily. Kyoshiro pulled his hat down to cover his face, thinking, well, he hasn't changed at all. Keigo finally noticed Kyoshiro and said, what's this? I thought it was just us, but there's another weakling here. Keigo carried his sword on his shoulder and looked at Kyoshiro, still hiding in the corner. At that moment, the tower shook violently. The 2 female students hugged each other in fear. Katsurugi pointed forward, saying, what's that? With a competitive expression, Keigo said, there it is. Hey, don't get in our way. Kyoshiro looked up. Before them appeared a gigantic brown-furred monster with horns on its head. The system notified, Savage Lion Boss has appeared. With a pale face, Katsurugi asked, so, we have to deal with that. Keigo laughed confidently, saying, no problem. Keigo charged towards the Savage Lion, thinking, I only have one target. Behind those fierce front paw attacks is. The Savage Lion opened its mouth wide. Keigo locked his gaze on the target, the nose. The male student in Keigo's group, holding a wooden sword, hesitated, unsure whether to step in and help. In the end, the male student shouted and decided to charge forward, surprising Keigo with his unexpected actions. Keigo kicked the male student away and ordered, stay put, damn it, what did you just do? Grabbing the male student's collar, Keigo furiously said, there's a weak spot behind it, so I was going to hit it there. Keigo angrily shouted, the hole in its back is a trap, don't ever let it lure you there. Keigo madly kicked the male student in the head, weaklings like you just follow my orders. Katsurugi intervened, hey, we don't have time for this. Kyoshiro, holding a sword, charged forward, surprising Katsurugi, who didn't understand what he was doing. As the Savage Lion charged towards the group, Kyoshiro jumped to attack it from behind. He struck it, leaving everyone astonished. The male student exclaimed, you. Keigo shouted at Kyoshiro, idiot, newbies shouldn't do such dangerous things. If you attack its back, it'll go berserk. The Savage Lion switched from walking on 2 legs to 4 legs, becoming more aggressive, with both attack power and speed increasing rapidly. The Savage Lion roared loudly, and the system notified, Savage Lion has activated roar skill. All attributes have increased. The Savage Lion aggressively positioned itself to attack the group. Katsurugi stood in front, pointing her wooden sword at it, saying, what's this pressure? It's different from before. Keigo, tense, raised his wooden sword in a defensive stance, thinking, this is. With just one move, the Savage Lion threw Keigo into the wall. The Savage Lion roared fiercely. Katsurugi, in utter despair, said, what should I do? Everyone will be killed by that thing. Kyoshiro said, I'm sorry if I scared you. Kyoshiro touched the hilt of his sword, taking a combat stance. I forgot that there are people who have never played this before, so I did it the way I usually do. Kyoshiro reassured Katsurugi, whose eyes were brimming with tears, don't worry, everything is going according to plan. Savage Lion aggressively charged towards Kyoshiro. Kyoshiro drew his sword from its sheath and smirked, making Katsurugi blush slightly. Keigo shouted, what are you laughing at? Keigo angrily looked at Kyoshiro, don't you understand the situation? Keigo wanted to punch Kyoshiro, you bastard, this whole mess is because of your stupid tricks. Katsurugi quickly stopped Keigo. Stop it, not now, we need to cooperate right now. Keigo pushed Katsurugi hard, making her yelp, shut up, weaklings like you should stay silent. Kyoshiro's eyes widened. Kyoshiro caught Katsurugi and glared at Keigo. He hasn't changed at all. Keigo frowned, You're really annoying. Kiyoshiro was startled. The hot-headed captain. Katsurugi blushed and said, "Thank you." Kiyoshiro blushed at Katsurugi's thanks. The sky was clear and blue, and there was also the vice-captain. A wooden house appeared. A point. Keigo carried his bamboo sword, looking at the girl with high pigtails. "What does that mean? This is why I hate new referees." Katsurugi intervened. "Stop it. Isn't this just a practice match?" Keigo shouted. "Shut up." Kiyoshiro glared. "Nothing has changed compared to the real world. If that's the case, even more reason to." Kiyoshiro brushed past Keigo, making him fall. "Wait, what the hell are you doing?" Kiyoshiro drew his sword from its sheath. "Cooperation in this group is impossible, so I need to focus on defeating this thing." Kiyoshiro charged towards Savage Lion alone. Katsurugi, full of fear, clasped her hands tightly and watched. Savage Lion pounced towards Kiyoshiro. Its roar skill had increased its stats, and switching to four-legged movement had significantly increased its speed, but Kiyoshiro drew his sword and charged forward. "That's exactly what I'm aiming for." Kiyoshiro's face was serious. The nose is the weak point. When standing upright, the nose is protected by four arms. Recalling the scene of Keigo with a wooden sword standing before Savage Lion, now its defense was weaker and within sword range. Kiyoshiro aimed his sword at Savage Lion. "By increasing my agility with Rabbit's Escape." The system screen displayed a notification. Rabbit's Escape skill activated. Agility increased. Savage Lion's claw aimed at Kiyoshiro. "My speed is also increased." Kiyoshiro slashed straight. "My attack." Blood splattered on Kiyoshiro's face. "We'll achieve it." Katsurugi was astonished. "He's subduing it with that fierce attack." "Who is he?" Keigo said. "He's just a rude otaku obsessed with Central Sword." Kiyoshiro, with one hand on the ground. "I know everything. I know this move and what happens next." Kiyoshiro, with blood on one side of his face. "As expected, this is Central Sword." Katsurugi clasped her hands together. "That person seems to be enjoying the atmosphere." Savage Lion punched hard. Kiyoshiro skillfully dodged. Kiyoshiro swung his sword at Savage Lion's nose, then landed coolly. Kiyoshiro slashed another line at Savage Lion's tail, the sword grazing Savage Lion's jaw. Kiyoshiro sheathed his sword, and the system screen displayed, "Congratulations. You have completed the guide. The reward wheel will start now." The reward wheel appeared before Katsurugi, and Keigo looked unhappy. Kiyoshiro approached the reward wheel. "All right, this is it. The reason I angered Savage Lion." The system screen displayed a notification. "A special wheel will be available for groups that complete the guide after angering Savage Lion." The wheel spun wildly. The reward for defeating the boss at level 1, combined with the finishing move, had upgraded the wheel to include 55 high-level rewards. Kiyoshiro watched the spinning wheel. "If you touch it, won't your arm be cut off?" "But it still spins like crazy." Kiyoshiro looked at the red gem in his hand. "Now, to get this." The system screen displayed, "Sakura Rabbit Gem. Those who possess it will have good luck." Kiyoshiro swallowed the gem. "Then I'll gratefully use it." The system interface displayed, "Congratulations, thanks to the luck of the Sakura Rabbit, your group's luck value has increased." Kiyoshiro's eyes reflected the spinning wheel. "Here it is." Kiyoshiro pressed the wheel. Kiyoshiro drew two swords, and the system displayed, "Congratulations, you have obtained the S-rank weapon Dual Swords Gordius." Kiyoshiro's eyes widened in surprise. Holding it, "This is truly an amazing weapon." Keigo's voice startled Kiyoshiro. "Give it back." Keigo carried his sword on his shoulder and looked at Katsurugi. "From now on, it's the era of heaven. Only the truly strong deserve everything. Giving in a rank weapon to a weakling like you is a waste, right?" The blade on Keigo's shoulder gleamed. "If you have a problem with it, try taking back this sword with your own strength." Katsurugi collapsed to the ground and looked up. Keigo made a sound when he saw Katsurugi stand up with a wooden sword in her hand. "You want to try? This isn't a rank weapon, you know." Katsurugi shouted, holding her sword, and charged. Keigo said, "Do you think you can win with that garbage prop?" Suddenly, it flashed, and both Katsurugi and Keigo widened their eyes, seeing Kiyoshiro blocking Keigo's sword. Keigo looked confused at the chipped blade. A crack on the A-rank weapon. Kiyoshiro warned, "Enough, stop it." When Kiyoshiro was a child, he sat playing video games. "Ever since I was young, I have never been able to fit in with those around me. In kindergarten, under the blue sky, I was terrible at understanding others, yet I tried my best to carve out a place for myself." The children played while Kiyoshiro struggled to fit in. Kiyoshiro suddenly shouted, "Stop it, can't you see she doesn't like it?" Young Katsurugi said, "No, this is the Nobi Nobi Men game." Young Keigo asked, "Haven't you watched Nobi Nobi Men? You're strange." Kiyoshiro's face turned red amidst the children's mocking laughter. "Over time, I no longer knew how to interact with others. Kiyoshiro hugged his book and watched two boys flirting with a girl. Leave me alone. It's no big deal, sweetie. Little by little, Kiyoshiro saw a male student talking to a female student. Are you okay? Thanks for helping me. Kiyoshiro faced down on the desk. Little by little, the computer screen displayed the central sword game interface. I began to escape. Kiyoshiro wore the game login device. I closed myself off. Water splashed in the world of video games. Kiyoshiro, wielding dual swords, stood in front of Katsurugi. Kiyoshiro said, "Stop making a fuss. Let's act together." Keigo was full of anger. Kiyoshiro was startled. Did I accidentally do something strange again, like that time? Is it because I can't read the situation? Keigo approached. You've been pissing me off for a while. Who do you think you are? Kiyoshiro stammered. That. Thinking back, I've interfered again. Kiyoshiro looked at Katsurugi. I'm sorry. Katsurugi was touched. Looking at Kiyoshiro. Kiyoshiro was surprised. Looking at the shy Katsurugi. No, it's not like that. Even I can understand this. Kiyoshiro held two swords. This. Kiyoshiro pointed his sword straight at Keigo. Is a situation where I have to help. Keigo was astonished. What the hell is happening? This has nothing to do with you. Kiyoshiro, in a stance with his sword pointed at Keigo. It has something to do with me. Katsurugi was grateful. Right now, in front of me. Kiyoshiro's face was serious. Someone is crying. Keigo gritted his teeth. I don't like this. I really don't like it. Keigo kicked Kiyoshiro. The fake good guys are the ones I hate the most. Katsurugi looked anxiously at Kiyoshiro being kicked. What? Kiyoshiro and Keigo fought. Kiyoshiro slashed Keigo's sword away. Keigo, incredulous at his broken sword, grabbed a nearby sword. Hey, give me your weapon. The unwilling person replied, what? But then I won't have a weapon. Keigo kicked the opponent hard in the chest. Shut up. Someone like you is useless, even with a weapon. Keigo charged with the sword. All your items and weapons should be given to me. Kiyoshiro skillfully dodged. I'll crush your head so you'll never mock me again. Kiyoshiro swung his sword in an arc, the hilt striking Keigo's forehead, making him faint. Katsurugi looked at Kiyoshiro in admiration. Kiyoshiro, astonished, looked at the sword in his hand. Since this is the real world, even a simple attack is surprisingly effective, so I must be careful. Katsurugi called out to get Kiyoshiro's attention. Kiyoshiro looked at Katsurugi. Are you hurt? At least ask if she's hurt, like a normal person. You idiot. Katsurugi blushed, feeling touched by Kiyoshiro. Katsurugi bowed. Thank you very much. Kiyoshiro blushed. It can't be me. Kiyoshiro, extremely embarrassed, spoke, with a surprised look on his face. Without you here, I don't know what would happen to everyone. Actually, I should be the one protecting the newbies. Kiyoshiro handed a dagger to Katsurugi. Here, accept this. Katsurugi's eyes widened, seeing the system interface display. Player solo has proposed transferring an item. Katsurugi, surprised, looked at the item before her. The system interface displayed a short dagger styled twin start sword Durandal. Do you want to accept it? Kiyoshiro awkwardly turned away. Well, I'll take my leave now. Katsurugi called after him. Wait, please, I can't accept this. It's... Kiyoshiro pulled his hat down. But you needed to protect them, right? Katsurugi looked at the dagger floating before her. Katsurugi grasped the dagger and smiled. Thank you so much. I'll protect them with this, no matter what. The system interface displayed a yes button. And so, at this moment, Katsurugi held Kiyoshiro's hand. Are you interested in kendo? Beginners are more than welcome here. Katsurugi beamed. Join us anytime. A pink smoke enveloped the school. Have I repaid the favor yet? Kiyoshiro looked down from above. Then, Kiyoshiro operated his phone screen. A goblin strangled a person crying for help. Someone please help me. Kiyoshiro pulled his hat down. The next conquest will be Toto. In the gloomy space, a crowd gathered at the gate. The reporter reported, this is a live broadcast from the Tokyo train station. To retrieve the Tokyo train station, which has been infiltrated by monsters known as goblins, volunteers have been sneaking in. But, inside, quite a few people were waiting. Hey, they're coming out. A girl in a red dress, with an arrow struck in her arm, was helped out by her comrades. My allies are still in there. Everyone looked shocked and rushed over. It failed. You're joking, right? They're the elites of my party, you know. Leave the talking for later. They've been attacked by the goblin's poison. Hurry up and detoxify. The bell rang, and everyone turned to look. From afar, a figure in a white coat rode a bicycle towards them. The bicycle sped by, dropping a bag. People called out, wait, young man. A hand placed on the screen. It's too dangerous to go in alone. The boy with the green armband was shocked. This is bad. There's no one who can go after him at the moment. Another person noticed the bag dropped on the ground. This is the package that kid dropped. The notice board displayed, Victory Apple. By consuming the apple that is grown by absorbing the moonlight well, with the power of the moon, the poison will be relieved. Everyone was astonished. This is a rare item, isn't it? We're saved if we use this. Who in the world is he? A door glowed. I didn't realize when I was playing the game, but, inside the dark cave, now I could feel the heavy humid air of the dungeon all over my body, the monsters' screams that made my ears hurt, and the faint smell of blood mixed in with the smell of animals. He sighed. They all. He smiled joyfully. I feel so calm. The door was still glowing. The bicycle parked nearby. He walked through the cave. I get nervous just seeing other players, so having all those reporters out there. His steps halted. He looked down. I got blisters again. I guess it's only natural since I've been exploiting the dungeon for the whole day. I don't get blisters in-game at all. He bit his lip. Will I be able to defeat him like this? There are several worlds that exist in Central Sword, and there are transferring devices called gates that allow players to freely go to places. The sky was purple, with phoenixes, zombies everywhere, and temples in the mountains. In those many worlds, there are monsters. Young men fought, and players who fight the monsters in those respective worlds. A group of people faced a one-eyed demon, defeat the area boss, and then a large blue dragon. There's a monster that rules over all of the monsters, which is the last boss of this game, Founder Alguidius. The dragon opened its mouth and charged. One will defeat him and receive the glory of being the savior of the world and domination of the world. That's the final goal of Central Sword. He sweated. Will I be able to do it, in this reality? Green smoke appeared around him. People looked through the iron bars. What's with it? All of a sudden, two demons looked at each other and laughed. Everyone fell silent. One person cursed. Shit, give me a break. She smiled. In the game, if you can't win because of strong enemies, you can run away and start over. She looked over. But if I run away now, Takazurugi remembered, someone might get hurt. I know how to fight. Injured legs limped forward. I'll definitely conquer it. A demon above watched the figure walking below, holding a tablet, thanks to those from the advance party. He pulled his hood. We found out that the Tokyo train station and the Goblin Castle were connected. I really need to thank them. He looked at the glowing screen. Status. He was stunned. It's thanks to my high-ranked weapons and game knowledge that I'm able to fight in this current situation. If I want to proceed further, the sword left its sheath. He pushed the sword in forcefully. His face was serious. I need to get stronger too. The demons laughed wickedly. That golden strike that I saw as a child in a historical drama. He glanced up. Yes. They reacted to my taunt. The monsters roared and jumped down. He crouched defensively. He looked up. Now then. The demon's eyes glowed yellow. There he is, the goblin wearing the flute. He squatted down, his feet glowing. Skill secret of escape is activated. Your agility will increase. He drew his sword and charged, striking down the demons. Firstly, the demons were cut down, blood flowing like a river. The demon spat blood. He raised his hand and grabbed a rope. His feet touched the ground, slightly crouched. The notice board displayed, Goblin's flute. After blowing once, it will summon several goblins around the user. I have to become stronger. He opened his mouth and brought the item to his lips. He ate it in front of them. In order to do that, more demons gathered. They grinned wickedly, holding clubs. He stood in the midst of the dense demons, drew his sword. Now, he smiled. Let the goblin hunt begin. Chapter 7. She looked up, placed her hand on her chest, and began to sing. The people around looked over. She sings pretty carelessly despite the situation we're in. She's probably lost her mind. Makes sense after everything. A man glanced over. That's happened. The goblins were still guarding by the iron bars. The boy looked out. There's a goblin army and a goblin king. The goblins were swarming outside. Actually seeing them in person fills me with a strong sense of dread. The goblins lit the fuse and threw bombs. The bombs fell like rain towards him. They exploded powerfully, and the goblins laughed gleefully. He landed behind them. A goblin's forte is continually attacking in all sorts of crafty ways. He crouched and jumped up. First, I must take care of the throwers in the back that are enabling their relentless assault. The goblins were cut in half. I'll massacre them all. The system notified. Level up because you took down multiple enemies at once. You gained secret to martial arts LV1. He glanced over. And now that their strategy has failed, here come all the other goblins. He steeled himself and continued slashing. I'll eliminate them as fast as I can. The goblins were beheaded or cut in half. The system notified again. Level up. Because you took down 50 enemies in one battle, you gained vacuum blade. The sword moved through the goblins, spilling blood, and the system notified again. Because you took down more than 60 goblins in less than a minute, you gained goblin hunt. He stood tall. Beneath him the goblins were cut to pieces. The notice board displayed, level up. Because you defeated more than 30 enemies with the panic status you gained Glare of the Wolf. He suddenly opened his eyes and stopped. In front of him appeared 3 goblins, towering several times taller than a human. They're here, the ones that appear after you defeat a certain number of low-rank goblins. The system notified, Goblin Elite Troop has appeared. He was stunned. Both their power and speed are on a whole other level compared to the low-rank goblins. The 3 goblins were shocked. He opened his yellow eyes. First, I'll stop them from moving. The system notified, activating Glare of the Wolf, the enemies have fallen into a state of panic. He gripped his sword as the notification continued, and then activating Secret to Martial Arts LV1. He charged through, slicing the goblins in half. I'll cut them down as fast as I can. Inside, people were worried. What's going on up there? I just want to go home. The stone door was about to break. The Goblin King sat in the middle with a red aura surrounding him, and goblins all around. A loud explosion shattered the stone door. The goblin screamed, and he walked in holding a small goblin, surrounded by blue flames. He stepped forward. That's a goblin army for you. They were all pretty strong, and no matter how many of them you cut down, they all keep trying to attack you, even in their last breath. The Goblin King smiled. I would never have made it this far if I hadn't taken the time to level up. He smiled brightly and reached out. Goblin King. The system displayed, equipping the S-rank weapon Star Sword Durandal. The captives were confused. Who's that? Did he come here all alone? Shit. Does he have a death wish? He stood among the monsters. I found the prisoners. They must be exhausted. I need to hurry and save them. People gritted their teeth. She smiled. He looked curiously. He was startled to see the angry Goblin King. The Goblin King raised his axe and struck the ground forcefully, scattering rocks. It smirked. He stood behind it. Kyoshiro snapped his fingers, and the Goblin King grew furious. People in the cell worried. He's got behind him. But this bastard's just messing around. Still, he dodged that attack. He's pretty amazing. She sat cross-legged. In Central Sword, each area's boss has a function where if you unlock all of their achievements, you can obtain a bigger bonus for defeating them. He tensed up facing the Goblin King. Because his entire army has been annihilated, the Goblin King's wrath has grown to the extreme. He crouched, blue flames rising around him, and since he defeated the entire army, he must have earned the skill used especially for hunting goblins. The Goblin King gritted its teeth. The system notified, the Goblin King is activating Frenzy. He looked up, activating Goblin Hunt. The Goblin King swung its axe. The stats of the Goblin King are raised by 40% for 5 minutes. It kept slashing down. The small goblins covered their faces and ran away. Precisely what I aimed for. Rocks flew everywhere. He jumped up with his sword. Goblin Hunt has increased all your damage to goblins by 50%. He opened his eyes wide. The skill used especially for fighting goblins, Goblin Hunt, while it is activated. He slashed its neck. It screamed. Blood splattering, activating Vacuum Blade. The Goblin King gripped its axe tightly. Defeat the frenzied Goblin King in front of the other goblins. The small goblins were stunned. By fulfilling these conditions, you can obtain the artifact Crown of the Goblins. He held the crown with both hands. This, the system notified, achievement unlocked. A new Goblin King has been born. The goblins joyfully climbed on him. Is what I came to the Goblin Dungeon for. The prisoners were happy. The goblins like him. Who in the world is he? In the dark space, who cares? We're saved, isn't that great, miss? The girl walked away. On her hand was a golden crown ring. The item that appears once the king is defeated. Ring of the Goblin Queen. Never would I have thought that I'd get it this fast. Someone sat in front of a computer screen. Solo beat me again. 3 computer screens lit up. I'd try so hard. I play Central Sword more than anyone. I'll win next time. It's unfair. It's frustrating. I'm so jealous. I wonder what kind of guy he is. Who are you? I want to see your face. I want to know who are you. She walked in the dark, looking around. The small goblins happily clung to him. Solo, the Kingslayer. She held the ring in her hand, blushing. To think you're such a cute little boy. I wonder how you look when you cry. The small goblins wrecked the room. I want to use that PC. So can you move? The blanket I hung, and the clothes I'll be wearing tomorrow. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play, okay. A few small goblins clung to him as if acting spoiled. He held the item in his hand, with the small goblins clinging to him. I shouldn't have used it inside my room out of curiosity. Goblin's flute. After use, 1 untamed goblin will be summoned. A towering castle. The closing of school. For how long? 2 young men stood talking at the door. Who knows? It's a nationwide announcement. Since the whole world is in the same situation, you're having it quite hard, teacher. Mugi Masamune scratched his head. Well, being a teacher is difficult in many ways. He held the paper. You look quite energetic yourself. You look better than when you were at school. He blushed. All thanks to you, teacher. The teacher was surprised. What do you mean? While they were talking, a girl bowed her head and walked behind Mugi. Kiyoshiru. That's amazing. I heard you saved this lady. Their hands nearly touched, as expected of my student, but you still need to get a lot stronger. They were practicing kendo. A few years ago, you introduced me to the world of swords. He stood looking at the hat. Then I found out about Central Sword, a game about swords. You can even converse in it. Maybe with this I can make friends. And Katsurugi's image appeared. Thank you so much. We can be saved with this. Thanks to your teaching, and my knowledge and experience of the game. In this reality, there's something I can do. He happily clenched his fist. I'm really thankful, Master. Mugi worriedly looked at him. He smiled. He turned and left. Is that so? He lay on the bed, surrounded by small goblins, looking at the screen in front of him. Teacher seemed a little off today. Him and the others all seemed to be having a difficult time. He mumbled, starting tomorrow, I'll also. I need to roll for my status before I sleep. In the frame, the image of the man with his arm around the blushing boy, both wearing kendo uniforms. The system displayed, 18 hours 32 minutes 29 seconds left before the tutorial ends. The tower shone brightly. Execution, it's your time. He was bathing while on the phone. What's the location? In the night, the tower of the sky. I overheard a rumor that a gate will appear. He put the phone on the table. A shadow stood at the door, holding something. Is that so? A lightning bolt struck. He held a mask in his hand. I guess it's time to go fight. He glanced at the blue light. The system displayed, Mugi Masamune, player LV86, executioner. In the early morning, since the appearance of the tutorial tower, 30 days have passed. People were buzzing, a figure with a covered face. So many people. The system displayed, 00HOOMO2S left before the tutorial ends. The tutorial has come to an end. Everyone gazed at the electronic screen. As of now, all gates around the world. He also focused on the screen. Will be opened. The door creaked open. A blinding light. A strange symbol appeared. People shielded their eyes, astonished. It's exactly according to the rumors. The gate appeared and he also shielded his eyes from the glare. Silently, his eyes widened, reflecting several images. The tutorial that lasted 30 days has ended. And starting from now, the shadow of a large monster stretched across the ground. Nearby players will be automatically transferred. The real central sword will begin. The large monsters with spears stood there. Players looked up at them. They screamed in fear. He was astonished. The monster raised its axe high. People panicked, gossiping, and running away. We were forcibly transferred. It's about to attack us. Run. He smiled. The item in his hand glowed blue, activating Crown of the Goblins. He smirked. The small goblins poured out. The tamed goblins will be summoned. The people running were astonished. What, goblins? He was happy. Now, let's conquer it. The giant raised the axe in its hand. It lowered the axe before the horrified eyes of the players. The axe hit the ground with a loud crash, sending everyone flying and screaming. Some stood while others sat, worried. The destructive power of the giant of Little World in the real world. I can't believe it. How in the world are we supposed to fight this thing in reality? The giant stood towering opposite him. Little World is quite a difficult area, even for Central Sword. They captured players who screamed in fear. The fear that sets in as you're continuously attacked by giants that have power to match their size is unforgettable, even if it was inside a game. The system displayed stats. I wondered just how many players had their spirits broken by them. He held a small glowing item. Being told to defeat the area boss there, it really is a shitty game, but I'm glad I hung in there until I beat it back then. He smiled. Thanks to that, I can fight now. It's time to take on Little World. Takatsurugi ran up. Everyone, can you stand? She raised her hand. Is anybody wounded? I have a few healing items with me. She spoke loudly. Let's get ready and prepare for the second attack. People were surprised. What are you doing? Telling us to stand back up? Didn't you see the power of that giant just now? We should just run away. She smiled. Everything's all right because he is here. He sat on a tree branch, watching the giant walk through the forest. How tall was the Gundam in Odaiba again? The crown lay in his hand. I shudder just thinking what would happen if that thing appeared in Tokyo. Crown of the Goblin King summons a strong goblin army. Strength depends on the user's stats. The giant looked surprised. What happened? It trembled, raising its axe. People watched nervously. It's not attacking. The small goblins clung to its axe. No way. The small goblins clung all over it. People were amazed. The goblins are helping us. There's a saying that goes, ants can topple statues, as long as humans or goblins group together, we can even take down giants. He leapt up, summoning the sword Gordium. No matter how powerful its attack is, It doesn't matter if you can stop it from attacking altogether. He landed on the giant's head, and if you have a sufficiently high level. He opened his eyes wide. You can cut through them. The sword sliced through the giant. It vanished, and everyone marveled. Awesome. He really did it. Who in the world is that guy? He landed on the ground, with the giant vanishing behind him. The small goblins danced in celebration. You defeated one giant. I could properly cut the throat of an ordinary giant soldier, meaning I should be able to fight the area boss. He halted. A voice spoke from behind. Solo-san. She ran up happily. It's the vice president and... She exclaimed, "You're as amazing as always, Solo-san. I'm in awe of how you made the goblins help you out. Did you use some kind of skill for that attack?" People were amazed. Solo. I feel like I've heard that name before. He quickly pulled his hat down. She hesitated. She clenched her fist. There are so many things I want you to teach me. We would love it if you join our party. A figure appeared, and the system notified, F2P doll allows you to create a body double doll for a low cost. She blushed. Solo-san. He covered his face and walked away. I'm sorry, Vice President. I couldn't even hold a conversation in the chat in the game. Joining a party with so many people in the real world is just too much for me. He blushed. Let's focus. Is it this area? He turned and walked away. No, maybe it was over here. I've been there countless times, but it's hard to recognize in reality. He looked down and slashed the ground. The ground in front of him cracked deeply. There it is. You need this to be able to unlock the achievement for defeating Mountain, the boss here. He jumped down. As for the way forward, he was surprised. I don't need a map to tell me. He walked through the tunnel. I'm sure to make it if I just follow that sound. In the world of Central Sword, giants are a special race. The last ones to keep fighting the ruler of all races, Alguidius. The large blue dragon appeared, were the giants. He covered his eyes from the light. Alguidius was the victor, but the anger and fear towards the giants made him give the king of giants, Mountain, a punishment. The sword was deeply embedded, emitting flames. He used the sword clad in eternally burning dragon flames to eternally burn his heart. He stood and looked. Again, seeing this stuff in the world is quite the spectacle. I feel like I could look at it forever, but I'm worried for the people outside, so I need to hurry. A voice spoke from behind. What the hell's that? Awesome. A punch hit his stomach. He collapsed in pain. The guy smirked. I knew it. We'd be sure to hit the jackpot if we just followed him. The exp is attractive, but they're just so damn strong. So normally you'd fight the giants with a raid. Kanazaki Riku laughed. But this guy's strong enough to take them down by himself, yet he didn't look for other giants and just disappeared somewhere. He practically told us there was a treasure around here. Minami Kokoa ran up. Aniki, that sword is cursed, but it's easy peasy with my skill. She grabbed the hilt to pull it out, and the system displayed, activating thief skill. Any negative effects on the item will be negated. He lay there worried. Don't remove that sword. He'll wake up. She pulled the sword out forcefully, and a roar echoed. Everyone was stunned. What now? An earthquake. On the ground, the giant's body vanished. This is bad. Everyone was stunned. What's that? The ground shook violently, and everyone looked up. He lay there, gritting his teeth. Mountain has started moving. Everyone looked up worriedly. The large black monster emerged. Inside the tunnel, Kanazaki was shocked and collapsed. Did a titan start moving? He gritted his teeth. This is bad. At this rate, the system displayed, the seal of the titan boss Mountain will be removed. Minami clutched the sword, and notification boards appeared in front of everyone, one after another. What are these? Monsters emerged from the ground. Enemies are spawning. They slowly stood up, and the system displayed, servant titans, loyal subjects that protect the inside of Mountain's body. She was shocked. What are these? They're so disgusting. It's not moving. Is it sleeping? If that's the case, I'll take this chance. Kanazaki drew a knife. Skill vacuum blade will be activated. Take this. The golden blade swept through. The monsters dispersed like smoke and then regrouped, unharmed. He smiled. The damage isn't going through. That won't do it. If there's a strategy, spit it all out. He turned in shock. They're all part of Mountain's body, and only that sword can attack Mountain. He pointed at the sword Minami was holding, and the system displayed, Great Sword Runting, a sword created by the nail of Alguidius himself. It is extremely effective in fighting against titans. She yelled, No way, this is me and my brother's loot. That's fine, just hurry before he moves again. A loud noise rang out again, and everyone screamed in fear. Minami clutched the sword and fell backward, screaming in fear. She opened her eyes wide. He used both hands to hold her arms and pull her back. Are you all right? She blushed. Why are you helping me? He pulled her up. Everyone turned. Worried. I can't just leave you be, can I? No time for that. It's coming. Ready your swords. The The system displayed, Mountain will be using the skill activation. The monsters lunged at them. Mountain's internal activity as well as his physical ability will rise. The giant with 2 yellow eyes punched down. It's coming. People scattered, and Takatsurugi pointed, those who don't have any defense skills, get behind me. The system displayed, skill shield wall will be activated. She stood straight, holding the sword horizontally. Green light enveloped her as she gritted her teeth. There's a crack on my strongest defensive shield. At this rate, everyone will die. She closed her eyes tightly. Solo-san. The shield shattered, and a red notification appeared. Skill Dragon's Claw will be activated. A person in armor and a blood-red mask appeared, drawing his sword. She was stunned. It's not Solo-san. He swung his sword, cutting off the monster's hand. The hand fell to the ground, and the other players were shocked. She opened her eyes wide. Shiver. The monster roared and then dived into the ground, disappearing. Everyone stood behind the person in the red mask. Who? Over here. He threw out a green shield to block the monsters. Summoned item Goblin's shield can be used to defend for a short time. He gritted his teeth. I'll use defense-type skills and items, but without the attacks going through, things are getting worse and, watch out! A shout rang out, and he saw the monsters turn to attack him. Kanazaki was holding a sword, shielding Minami, big bro. He slashed at the monsters. Your status is low, so stay back. Shit, there are too many enemies for a single sword to handle, and while protecting her, I can't. He gritted his teeth and raised the sword, but he was grabbed by 3 monsters. The sword fell from his hand. She screamed, Big bro. She ran to hug a monster. Let go of big bro, you. She gritted her teeth and held on tightly. He cursed in his mind. I can't do anything while protecting. He rushed over. Skill Secret of Escape will be activated. He sped through the monsters. His hand touched the sword hilt, picking it up. He glanced. You two. Don't move for a moment. He swung the sword, cutting down the monsters. I'm glad I raised my skill rank by fighting with the goblins. Skill Vacuum Blade will be activated. He smiled wryly as he saw the monster's limbs being cut off. Even with the same weapon, there's this much of a difference in ability. She was also amazed. That guy's amazing. Wait, more monsters emerged. How many times are they going to come out? He shouted. You know how to defeat it, right? Can you do it? He shouted back. Yes. He threw golden pellets to him. Then I'll support you. The system displayed. Item Fire Dragon Scale Explosive Bullets will be summoned, and I'll return the favor of saving my sister. She also brought out a rose bush. Item Rose Wall will be summoned. The rose bushes entangled the monsters, stopping them. He ran straight ahead. Go, kid. He sped through the path. The 2 behind him shouted together. Go kill it. He stabbed the sword into the beating heart. With this, it will be sealed again. It emitted a strong light. The monsters were quickly eradicated. Minami jumped up happily. The enemies are disappearing. The sword was embedded deep in the heart. No, this is just the start. The yellow eye opened. He pressed the sword firmly. King of the Titans, Mountain, let's settle this. The system displayed. Area Little World, a hidden stage will open. The giant king was gradually disappearing before the players' astonished eyes. Takatsurugi looked up in confusion. It stopped. Why? The scary-looking man was momentarily speechless as well. Kiyoshiro was half kneeling on the ground, his hand gripping the sword deeply embedded in the ground. Now then, Mountain, let's end this. Suddenly, a tremor accompanied by a booming voice caused everyone to panic. A mere mortal dares to challenge me. How laughable. Kanazaki covered his ears tightly. What is this voice? Minami, beside him, held her head and responded, it's deafening. Kiyoshiro's eyes widened. An insolent little insect like you dares to speak so boldly. How amusing. Kiyoshiro stood, his left hand gripping the sword hilt deep in the ground. But I'm the one holding your heart in my hand, you know that, don't you? A powerful light emanated, and Kiyoshiro stood facing it. You think that gives you control? How ridiculous. Fine. Come, to the depths of my memory. Kanazaki shielded his eyes from the intense light. What is this light? Minami also shielded her eyes from the strong light. Hey, are you okay? Kiyoshiro closed his eyes tightly, and the system displayed a notification, transitioning to Mountain's mental realm. Kiyoshiro stood with his eyes closed under the clear blue sky, feeling the fresh wind blow through him. He stood on a lush green grass field and looked toward the green tree in front of him. Kiyoshiro's eyes widened in amazement. I didn't notice this in the game, but in reality, the wind and plants here feel so gentle yet overwhelmingly powerful. He turned to look behind him at the owner of the shadow looming over him. Human, you've arrived. Behold, this was once the world of the giants. That voice. A giant king wielding a sword appeared, and Kiyoshiro only reached up to his ankle. Kiyoshiro sweated profusely, unable to look away. So this is Mountain's true form. It's strong? Majestic. There's no other way to describe it. The Giant King opened his mouth, his pupils emitting golden light. It seems you're ready to fight, boy. Your resolve to challenge me, Mountain, is admirable. Kyoshiro took a combat stance, and the system displayed a notification. Greatsword Runting summoned. The Giant King threw a powerful punch towards Kyoshiro. Take this, boy. Kyoshiro's eyes widened. If it were just a fair duel between me and Mountain, I'd enjoy it to the fullest, but right now, the Giant King slammed his fist into the ground, then looked puzzled. In the crater created by his punch was a doll, and the system displayed a notification, item Mukaken doll used, a decoy. Kyoshiro had circled behind the Giant King and was running towards the ancient tree while the Giant King raged, "Boy, are you running away?" Kyoshiro, with his sword in hand, ran straight for the tree. The power and faith of the giants. Your real target is the sacred tree, isn't it? If I want to finish this quickly, I have no choice but to cut that. The Giant King's sword emitted flames, and the system displayed, Mountain activates the skill fighting spirit, weapon attack power doubles. The Giant King said, I won't let you. The Giant King hurled the sword towards the running Kyoshiro. Kyoshiro quickly turned to block it. It's like getting hit by a high-speed train. Kyoshiro struggled to defend. What insane charging power. Blocking isn't an option. He sliced through the Giant King's sword, surprising the Giant King. I'll slice through with the momentum. Kyoshiro continued towards the tree, ignoring the Giant King's plea. Wait, boy, that sacred tree is our most precious. Kyoshiro raised the sword high, ignoring the Giant King's attempt to stop him. I understand how important this sacred tree is to the giants. He thought of Takatsurugi, Kanazaki, and Minami, but I'm sorry, there are people I need to protect too. Kyoshiro decisively slashed diagonally across the tree trunk despite the Giant King's cries, and the system displayed a series of notifications. Congratulations, you've cut down the human sacred tree Ulstum and unlocked an achievement. As a result, you've acquired a new skill. The Giant King stood furiously behind Kyoshiro, unforgivable. Tears welled up in the Giant King's eyes as he roared, and the system displayed a notification. Learning anti-giant skill. I won't forgive you, you wretch. The system was still loading, and the Giant King leapt down, intending to crush Kyoshiro with his body. Kyoshiro felt a chill of trepidation. It's coming. An unavoidable, absolute attack. The Giant King's massive form descended upon Kyoshiro, Mountain's leap. Kyoshiro raised his sword. That's why. This strike will connect. When the Giant King landed, it caused a violent tremor. Suddenly, the Giant King screamed in pain and collapsed backward. Kyoshiro stood observing. Doing this in real life, it's like stepping on something tiny, and it feels a little unpleasant. The system displayed a notification. Skill acquisition complete. Kyoshiro pressed his foot into the grass for momentum. Mountain, I actually wanted to face you head-on in a proper battle. He leapt high, gathering power in his hand as the system displayed, activating skill Falling Titan Star. But I can't hold back now. Kyoshiro punched the Giant King's face. I'll finish this properly. Blood dripped from Kyoshiro's sword, and he held the blade to the Giant King's throat. Mountain, lend me your strength. The Giant King lying on the ground responded, lend you my strength. What could a human boy and an aged king possibly achieve together? Kyoshiro's face was filled with determination. Together, we can defeat Alguidius. The Giant King opened his eyes to look at Kyoshiro, still with the blade at his throat. You think a mere human can defeat a dragon? How arrogant. Kyoshiro stood with the blade at the Giant King's throat. If Alguidius rises, humanity will be wiped out. He thought of Katsurugi and his friends. Too many people have already died or needlessly suffered. Kyoshiro stood there and spoke loudly. I want to protect them all. You and I can do it together. Please, lend me your strength. The Giant King remained silent. Bright flames gradually appeared. My wife, my children, my kin. Flames emanated from the Giant King's body. If only I'd had more power, I could have protected them. The Giant King covered one eye with his hand, and a tear rolled down his cheek. This boy, he's just like I was back then. In that case, the Giant King suddenly laughed heartily, causing Kyoshiro to stumble backward. What an insolent, brazen boy you are. You look like you'll collapse any second. The Giant King helped Kyoshiro stand in his palm, and the system displayed a notification. Item Ring of the Giants acquired, a token of the contract with Mountain, the Giant King. Kyoshiro raised his hand and clenched his fist towards the Giant King. For that reason, boy, I'll lend you my strength. Take it. A glowing ring appeared on Kyoshiro's index finger, and the system displayed a notification. Effect grants access to the skill Oni transformation when equipped. Kyoshiro closed his eyes tightly, feeling the emanating light. Boy, together, let's take down the tyrant dragon. Kyoshiro was transported to another space, and he looked around in surprise at the scene before him. I'm back. Now that I think about it, I didn't explain anything to those two. Big bro. Kanazaki was stabbed in the chest from behind by someone with a sword, and Manami held a dagger in a defensive stance. The person who stabbed Kanazaki was the scary-looking man. You. Manami cried angrily, tears streaming down her face. Damn you, what are you? Kiyoshiro was startled and shocked. Get away from my big bro. Kiyoshiro stood watching, as Manami still gripped the dagger furiously towards the scary-looking man. Big bro. Big bro. Kanazaki, bleeding profusely, struggled to open his eyes. What is this kid? I thought he was gone. When did he? The scary-looking man kept a firm grip on the sword held piercing Kanazaki's chest. Well, whatever. Kiyoshiro's eyes widened, and Manami screamed, I'll just take him with me. Big bro, big bro. Kiyoshiro suddenly sensed something that made him shiver. Run. Kiyoshiro looked towards Kanazaki and the scary-looking man. What the hell? What's even going on? No way. That guy. The scary-looking man stepped on Kanazaki's back for leverage and pulled the sword out, causing Kanazaki to collapse under his foot, to everyone's shock. Manami, filled with rage, shouted, You! She charged at the scary-looking man. What did you do to my big brother? The scary-looking man readied his sword for combat, and Kiyoshiro rushed over. That weapon, this isn't good. Manami swung her sword fiercely but missed, and the scary-looking man swung his glowing red sword towards Manami's back. Kiyoshiro managed to reach Manami in time to pull her away, avoiding the attack. Kiyoshiro stood protectively in front of Manami, ready to fight. Manami held Kanazaki's body, crying, Big bro, stay with me. Wake up, big bro. Kiyoshiro looked back at the siblings and Kanazaki's chest wound. Thank God, he's still alive, but he was horrified by Manami's cries, Big bro. Kiyoshiro remembered when Kanazaki told him, Go, kid. Kiyoshiro suddenly trembled, sensing the scary-looking man behind him. The scary-looking man swung a sword at Kiyoshiro, who managed to dodge just in time. They locked eyes, and Kiyoshiro realized, I knew it. This sword. It's the venomous serpent sword. Both stepped back, keeping a distance, and the scary-looking man created an explosion near Kiyoshiro. Kiyoshiro covered his mouth. A smokescreen. Damn it, I can't see a thing. Manami kept crying over Kanazaki. Big bro, don't leave me behind, big bro. Kiyoshiro thought, focus, I can handle this. Kanazaki lay on the ground, blood filling his mouth. What I need to do right now is take her and get her out of here. Kiyoshiro closed his eyes tightly. I need to get her to safety. This smokescreen is probably a way to stall for the venomous serpent sword's cooldown. The scary-looking man, holding the sword, approached Manami. He's definitely going after her. She's targeted. The scary-looking man swung the sword at Manami, who was completely defenseless. Kiyoshiro rushed in, using his sword to block the attack. But I won't let him touch her. The scary-looking man's sword was broken in half by Kiyoshiro's sword. The scary-looking man threw away the broken sword and pulled out a new one. Kiyoshiro was amazed. Another weapon. A sinister aura surrounded the scary-looking man as he raised the sword high. Kiyoshiro tensely touched his sword hilt. A textbook perfect overhead stance. Why does this feel so dangerous? The scary-looking man swung the sword down, and the system displayed a notification. Skill Dragon's Claw activated. The scary-looking man's attack was too fast and powerful, meant only to kill. There's no way I can block this, Kiyoshiro thought urgently. Suddenly, the scary-looking man's sword struck Manami's back, causing her to cough up blood and leaving her wounded. Kiyoshiro angrily turned and rushed to protect Manami, while the scary-looking man's eyes gleamed. Damn it, I have to save her, no matter what. Kiyoshiro held Manami in his arms. Hold on. Stay with me. I'm going to help you now. Manami responded weakly. Don't worry, I'll go to my big bro's side. Kiyoshiro shouted. Don't say something so stupid. Do I even have enough recovery items? If I can just get her past the gate, we can make it to a hospital. The scary-looking man, observing this, asked in confusion, why are you trying to save them? Kiyoshiro still held Manami, while the scary-looking man continued. Those two are repeat offenders for robbery and assault. Society would be better off without them. The scary-looking man drew his sword. Why save trash like that? Are you some kind of idiot? Or are you one of their allies too? Kiyoshiro remembered being punched hard in the chest by Kanazaki. That's right, these two were the first people to stand by me as allies. He also recalled standing back-to-back with Manami. Sure, they've done bad things. I know they're not good people, but, with tears in his eyes, Kiyoshiro shouted, they saved someone like me. Killing criminals. That's not the way to do this. The scary-looking man delivered his verdict, then die with them. Kiyoshiro held Manami with one arm, while holding his sword with the other. He pressed the sword into the ground, and the system displayed a notification. skill falling giant star activated. The scary-looking man was bewildered as mannequins appeared around him, and the system displayed a notification: Mountain's body has been damaged. As a defensive measure, enemies are spawning. Holders of the ring won't be attacked. The scary-looking man was busy fending off attacks from the mannequins, a desperate move. No, it's a stalling tactic. The sun shone brightly in the corner of the sky, with skyscrapers standing closely together. Kiyoshiro, holding Manami, ran and panted, "Hang in there, we're almost at the hospital. Your big bro is." He held Manami tightly, followed by the small goblins carrying Kanazaki's body. "Right here with you." Manami sat huddled in a corner. "Will you come with me?" Kanazaki, holding a cigarette, looked at Manami, who was looking up at him. "My brother." Kanazaki patted Manami's head. "He's my only family." The hospital ceiling lights were bright, and Manami awoke groggily. "Brother." Kiyoshiro stood nearby and said, "Brother." Kiyoshiro looked guilty, biting his lip and kneeling on the floor, bowing his head. "I'm sorry, if only I'd come back sooner, your brother." Manami looked at Kiyoshiro kneeling on the floor. She recalled the image of Kanazaki holding a cigarette. "He's gone." "What are you talking about? It's not your fault." Kiyoshiro hunched over while Manami continued, "I was so scared back then, but I remember you tried to protect us." Tears streamed down Manami's face. "So, hold your head up, okay? Thank you." Kiyoshiro clenched his fists, looking up at Manami. "She talked so much about the mountain, but I couldn't protect him. I wanted to save him, and I failed." Kiyoshiro thought about the scary-looking man, and that guy with the mask. What was he? Manami, lying on the hospital bed, asked, "What did they do to my brother?" Kiyoshiro replied, "The executioner." Back when the game's central sword was at its most chaotic, player-killing, Park was out of control. The scary-looking man held a player's head surrounded by the bodies of murdered players. To deal with it, the admins introduced the executioner, a player killer. Kiyoshiro clenched his fist. "I thought it was just a feature in the game system." He shuddered, thinking about the man. "But that executioner I saw in real life was human." Manami wiped her eyes. "How was my brother supposed to fight someone like that?" Manami couldn't stop her tears. "Do you know about Nightmare?" Kiyoshiro realized something. Manami shouted, "You know about it. Tell me." "I don't know much. I didn't play as much as my brother." Bodies lay everywhere, and a young man in a red cloak was pierced by 2 swords. "If we go there, can we level up and get stronger?" Manami got up and grabbed Kiyoshiro's shoulders. "I know my brother and I aren't special, but that doesn't justify killing him like that." Manami looked earnest. "Please, I want to avenge my brother." Kiyoshiro was conflicted. "Take my sister and run." He looked at Manami earnestly. "That's what he asked of me, his final wish." Kiyoshiro took Manami's wrist. "I'll examine the body. For now, please rest." He stood up and walked away while Manami called after him, "This conversation isn't over. Don't run away." Kiyoshiro walked alone towards the Red Tower. "My understanding was so shallow. Everything that happened in the game, including the incidents and disasters I saw on TV or online, I treated them like they had nothing to do with me, as if they were someone else's problem." He recalled the moment the man stabbed Kanazaki in the chest. "Then I saw someone die for the first time." Kiyoshiro stood there. "My mind went blank. I couldn't do anything." He closed his eyes tightly. "I want to protect. I don't want anyone else to get hurt." The monsters beyond the gate. Algidius, the executioner. He glanced sideways. If this keeps going, one day. Suddenly, a light shone from above Kiyoshiro's head. He looked up in astonishment. What could it be, this light? The light reflected in his eyes. Its large eyes emitted a golden light, and people below were taking pictures with their phones. Manami dropped the cigarette from her mouth. "What?" She clutched the rooftop railing in shock. "What the hell is that?" Someone laughed, manipulating their phone. "I wonder if I'll finally meet you this time." A short-haired brunette held her phone, looking at the giant golden eye in the sky. She looked delighted and kissed her phone. Kingslayer solo. A platinum blonde man also watched the giant golden eye from a rooftop. A bearded man frowned at the golden eye. A golden magic circle suddenly appeared under Kiyoshiro's feet and began to move. Similar magic circles appeared under everyone's feet. What the hell is happening? Kiyoshiro shielded his eyes from the gaze of the eye. The transfer has begun. That giant eye, it's the gate itself. Anyone who meets its gaze is pulled in, straight to that place. People began to be transported, and the golden light covered the city. The realm of the defiant, the kingdom of the damned, Nightmare. A door engraved with demonic images appeared, with 3 servants kneeling before a figure covered in red cloth, pierced by numerous swords. This place. A fully robed servant raised a sword. It's a living nightmare. The gem on the crown of the red-cloaked figure glowed. Nightmare. The moonlight shone brightly as Manami, dressed in a black hooded cloak, prepared to attack the remaining woman. Please, forgive me, I'll do anything. Behind Manami lay the bodies of her recent victims. The system displayed a notification, skill dance of the cursed activated. The woman looked on in despair, her eyes wide. Manami finished off the woman, turned away, and the system displayed a notification, congratulations, you've achieved 10 player kills, Park, in Nightmare. The ruler of this world, Void, will grant you whatever you desire. Manami said, whatever I desire. Her eyes were vacant. Power. Kiyoshiro held the glowing robe, Fuyo. This is a legendary SSR item. The system displayed a notification. Item Emperor of Thunder's robe, a robe made from the skin of electrically charged rats. Equipping it grants the Thunder attribute. It drops from Nightmare treasure chests with an extremely low probability. Kiyoshiro, moved, took the robe from the treasure chest. I searched all over for this in the game, and it never appeared. And now it shows up at a time like this. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. He put on the robe, pulling up the hood, but at least I'm saved. It comes with a hood, and best of all, I can finally fight properly. 2 black wolves with red eyes and 2 white phantoms approached the group. The orange-haired youth, anxious, said, damn it, why aren't my attacks working on them? The girl hid in the arms of the young man in black, who said, I don't want to die in a place like this. Kiyoshiro descended from above. Those people, they don't know about elemental attacks. He bit his lip, and the system displayed, skill Void Blade activated. Kiyoshiro unleashed lightning bolts at the monsters, and the system displayed, thanks to the effect of Emperor of Thunder's robe, the lightning attribute is applied. Kiyoshiro landed, and the orange-haired youth said, You saved me. I was suddenly summoned and didn't have decent weapons or items, so I was in trouble. The young man next to him added, Wait, weren't you the one who appeared in the news? Kiyoshiro turned away, startled. He vanished while the orange-haired youth called after him, Wait a moment. The goblin handed the youth some items, and the system displayed, the mini-goblin has transferred the items Exorcism Talisman and Energy Apple. The young man said, You're giving them to me. Kiyoshiro stood in the graveyard, panting while holding his phone. What did they mean by news? I must be so out of the loop. Well, now, more than what? He recalled the 3 people from earlier. I was suddenly summoned and didn't have any decent weapons or items. Walking towards the ancient castle, he thought, there must be many others in similar situations who don't know anything about elemental attacks. I have to complete Nightmare. His eyes widened as he was surrounded by ghost dogs, and the system displayed, countless ghost dogs appeared. Kiyoshiro drew his sword, Move, I don't have time to deal with you. A powerful fire attack incinerated the ghost dogs around him. A fire attack this powerful. He looked up, confused. Who? Seiya, holding an umbrella, appeared. She closed the umbrella and landed, and Kiyoshiro thought, this person was the one who made the fire attack earlier. I have to go quickly to that place. Seiya approached Kiyoshiro, smiling up at him, You're the Assassin King Solo. Even up close, you're super adorable. Kiyoshiro blushed. A girl this close to me. He immediately hid behind a tombstone, wary, What are you? Seiya covered her mouth, laughing, I'm sorry for our first meeting. Kiyoshiro clung to the tombstone. Who is this person? She's a little scary. Seiya spread her arms wide. Nice to meet you, Assassin King Solo. Let's finish Nightmare together. She continued, You know what's going on, right? In this Nightmare, doing a player kill, that is, killing someone, gives you a lot of experience points. Kiyoshiro sweated. This person knows that too. The system displayed a notification, Nightmare Eastern Region, 30 minutes ago. Stop, please, stop. A young man in green, clutching his shoulder, stood before Manami. We're teammates, right? Why are you doing this? The red-haired youth replied, Because we're in Nightmare. He raised his sword. Getting a lot of EXP points from Park is better than hunting mobs or fighting bosses. This is paradise. It's the era of the truly powerful. The young man in green said, Damn it, at least you can escape. His pupils suddenly constricted as Manami stabbed him from behind, and he collapsed. The system displayed notifications, Congratulations, you've successfully completed your first Park in Nightmare. The reward item Cloak of Darkness and bonus EXP points have been granted by the area boss Void. The red-haired youth was startled by a sinister shadow. I see. So this is Nightmare. Before him, the system displayed EXP points. What? Who the heck are you? Manami, with a sinister smile and blood splattered on her cheek, the system displayed, Skill Moonlit/activated. An arm lay in a pool of blood. More. Players were attacked by numerous daggers. No, don't kill me. More power. The blonde youth begged Manami, Just let me live, please. I'll introduce you as a high-ranking member of pirates. Numerous player corpses lay at Manami's feet. She coldly brushed her cloak. Not enough. She remembered the scary-looking man. I need more power to kill that damn masked guy. Seiya affectionately held Kyoshiro's arm, and he was extremely embarrassed. Could you let go of me? Seiya said. Why? I want to get along better with you. Kyoshiro ran off. Because I won't be able to lift my sword in crucial moments. Seiya waved. Right. Kyoshiro glanced back at Seiya. Who is this person? This is way too difficult for a novice at player combat. It looks like we have the same objective. He stopped, and Seiya, following, said, Here. Below the cliff were countless monsters. The only path to the area boss void, Cemetery of Laments. Various monsters gathered in the graveyard below. If there were this many undead mobs in real life, it'd be amazing. The red-haired youth waved his sword at the undead. Those guys can't be defeated with normal attacks. Kyoshiro said, You need skills with elemental attacks or also enchantment. Seiya, holding a dagger, emitted a red flame, and the system displayed, Seiya Kamiyama, player LV38, a huge fan of Kyoshiro in the game. Seiya said, It's my turn, Assassin King. I'm one of the best enchanters from Central Sword. Kyoshiro leaped up. I know. Seiya called after him. Wait, what are you doing? Golden lightning emanated from Kyoshiro, and the system displayed, the lightning attribute is added to the star sword Durandal. His eyes glowed, emitting golden rays. Before there are more park victims, Divine Thunder, we need to finish this quickly. Kyoshiro emitted golden light from his body, holding his sword. I must hurry, even if it's just a second faster. The desolate graveyard had skeletons hanging from trees. In Nightmare, where skills grow stronger through park, a pink-haired girl looked around nervously. Those who were summoned unprepared or unequipped could become victims. If I'm too late, various monsters gathered. This is the path leading to the castle where the area boss resides. I'll take the shortest route. The system displayed, lightning attribute is added to the skill Void Blade. Kyoshiro rushed forward, slashing the monsters, and green and yellow lights quickly subdued them. Seiya stood above, looking down at the dust and smoke below. She clutched her chest. Amazing. I knew he was strong, but Kyoshiro's sword slashed through, decapitating the monsters. He stood at the center, his eyes wide. I can see it. The sword, glowing with yellow light, sliced through, sending monsters flying. Isaha, astonished, said, Where has someone so talented like him been all this time? That enchantment combination with lightning infusion, even I couldn't figure that out. She recalled the player rankings. Nobody knew how to defeat the enemies that normal attacks don't work on, but gradually, it spread that you could add attributes to weapons. Seiya pondered, Infusion, a power with an extremely high difficulty level even in Central Sword. Who and when did they discover this? That's why enchantresses are so special. Kyoshiro fought the monsters with his sword. Seiya's face lit up. It can't be. A notebook lay open on the table. I died so many times in the game, but I'm glad I didn't give up back then. Kyoshiro received a glowing green sword. I did it. So this is how you enchant a weapon. The sword hilt in Kyoshiro's hand emitted intense light. Thanks to that, now, I can fight them. He stood among the monsters, the green light continuing to shine brightly. Seiya looked at the glowing dagger in her hand. More enemies have appeared. Should I step in to help him? Just this once. But if it's him. Kyoshiro's body was enveloped in golden energy, his pupils turning gold. More power from the lightning. The monsters fell simultaneously, the residual electric energy. Seiya widened her eyes in amazement, watching the monster Kyoshiro defeated. From the enemies that were electrocuted so far, Kyoshiro raised his sword high. The powerful light spreading. Is it gathering on his weapon? The monsters floated weightlessly in the light, and the system displayed, performing attribute release. Kyoshiro's eyes glowed. I will end this nightmare. He delivered a finishing blow to the monsters, thunder release. Kyoshiro's eyes flashed as everything exploded from the sword's light. This time, for sure, I won't let anyone die. Nega stood with the scary-looking man, looking towards the bright flash. What the heck? Nega turned to the man beside him, and the system displayed, Nega ran, player LV54, special event class of the Metropolitan Police. These countless corpses. What happened here? Bodies of murdered players lay scattered on the ground. Both clan members and civilians are being killed indiscriminately. Why? The scary-looking man replied, It's done by a player killer, Park. The scary-looking man turned to leave, and Nega looked after him. Startled, Executioner, where are you going? Protecting the civilians is our priority. Please stop your reckless actions. The scary-looking man responded, Don't get in my way. His body emitted a sinister aura as he gripped his sword hilt. It's execution time. Nega remained silent, not daring to say anything further. The blue moonlight cast a soft glow over the castle. Inside, Seiya followed Kyoshiro on the red carpet, deep into the castle. Kiyoshiro suddenly sensed something unusual. A man in a red cloak sat on a throne, and Seiya said, "That is the boss of Nightmare, Void." Seiya shivered, looking at Void's face, even though this is our first confrontation. She looked at Kiyoshiro. "But it will be okay, right? If it's with this person." Seiya raised her hand to stop Kiyoshiro. "Hey, wait a minute, if you carelessly get too close." Kiyoshiro reached out to touch Void, then yanked off the red cloak, revealing an empty throne. Seiya was astonished. A shell. A shadow suddenly appeared behind Seiya. Don't get me wrong. The shadow disappeared as Seiya and Kiyoshiro turned. At first, I was filled with regret. Kiyoshiro and Seiya looked around warily while the voice continued. But after killing more than 10 people, I felt nothing anymore. Maybe the protagonist in those action movies who kills enemies left and right feels something like this, right? The shadow returned to the throne. That's why killing you here won't give me any hesitation. Kiyoshiro looked up. That voice, is it different from the in-game audio? Seiya asked, "Who are you?" The shadow looked at the mask in its hand. Surrounded by other shadows holding swords. "You want to know who I am? I'm the Nightmare of the Living." Seiya was startled, looking at the shadow. The shadow put on the mask. "I'm Nightmare itself." Void's eye opened wide, and the system displayed, "Nightmare Area Boss, Void has appeared." Kiyoshiro's eyes flashed, and powerful energy radiated from him. The system displayed, "The battle begins." The young man, holding a bloody blade, stood over a pile of corpses. The reason why Nightmare is called so is because it's a brutal nightmare for the living. Void spread his hand, and the eye in the palm glowed. You can get special rewards and tons of EXP from parking. Once you reach a certain number of PKs, you become Hollow, the area boss of Nightmare, and gain powerful skills as you enter a frenzied state and attack other players. Seiya stood with Kiyoshiro. "Be careful, Kingslayer. I can't really put my finger on it, but I feel this is different from the Hollow in the game." She continued, "Maybe it'd be better to withdraw and see what happens." Kiyoshiro responded, "No, I can't do that." The golden eye glowed. Of the people that got transported to Nightmare this time, many have no equipment nor any idea of how to complete it. Players looked around nervously. "So we need to hurry." Kiyoshiro drew his sword. "You know I really love Central Sword, but I can't ignore people dying in reality." He shouted, "I will never do so." Void pursed his lips and frowned. Kiyoshiro stood in front of Minami and Kanazaki. "At first, I was excited about what I could gain from this new world, but now, it took everything from me." Small daggers floated around Void, and the system displayed, "Activating skill, I want revenge." Void launched multiple daggers at Kiyoshiro. "Those swords, if they so much as graze me, I'll take huge damage." Daggers of the underworld. Kiyoshiro sliced through all the daggers and rushed forward. The system displayed, "Activating secret to escape." "All right, I managed to dodge them all." He looked up at a dagger coming towards him. "I will never forgive this world for taking Aniki from me. I'll make the whole world know my despair." Kiyoshiro deflected all attacks. "I can't die here. I'll win and..." He bit his lip with determination. "Save everyone." Kiyoshiro closed in on Void, who was astonished. This shitty game has no justice. Kiyoshiro looked at Void in confusion. Numerous daggers sliced through the black cloak, and the system displayed, "Activating vacuum blade." Another shadow blocked the sword for Void. Void looked dissatisfied. "You fucking brat." Kiyoshiro landed, his cloak billowing. Kiyoshiro opened his eyes. "What? Just now, something passed right by me." Seiya, leaning against a column, said, "Both his offense and defense are on a whole other level." Suddenly, a shadow swung a sword at Seiya. Bloodlust. Seiya dodged the attack, but it isn't coming from this guy. She glanced at Void, but from Hollow. Void controlled the floating daggers, and Seiya rummaged through her bag. "Is she trying to attack me from my blind spot while fighting Kingslayer? How nasty. I can't stand those kinds of people." Seiya put on a glowing purple ring, and the system displayed, "Using Ring of the Goblin Queen." She raised her hand, and the purple light spread powerfully. Seiya smiled happily, and the system displayed, "Activating the effect of Ring of the Goblin Queen. All target enemies will be drawn to the ring. Kingslayer solo, just leave this side to me." Kiyoshiro watched in astonishment. Seiya waved and approached the shadows. "The apostles have mid-boss stats, and she pulled 2 of them away from me. I don't understand her, but no doubt she's played Central Sword a lot. Leave it to me." Kiyoshiro smiled and turned his back to Seiya. "Seems like I've got someone on my side." Void gritted his teeth. "What are you smiling about?" Kiyoshiro raised his sword. "It's fine. I won't let my guard down." He pointed his sword at Void. "I will defeat you and put an end to this nightmare." Corpses of players lay scattered. In order for Hollow to appear, sacrifices are needed, and this time it wasn't in-game avatars but real people. The ring on Kiyoshiro's hand glowed. and the system displayed, using Ring of the Giants, but they can still be saved. Kyoshiro raised his sword. Come, Mountain. The Giant King, resting his chin on his hand, said, acting all high and mighty while summoning me? It doesn't look like the opponent is that guy, but fine. Kyoshiro's hand grew long claws. Don't you dare lose, boy. Kyoshiro wielded the glowing red sword, and the system displayed, in accordance with the contract with Mountain, here it is, the power of Mountain. Kyoshiro took a combat stance, and the system displayed again, activating demonization. It's hot. I feel so powerful. It feels like the pressure I felt while fighting Mountain has all been crammed into my body. Seiya turned. Hey, stop. My taunt got dispelled. What's going on? Void launched daggers at Kyoshiro. Fuck, fuck, fuck. You've got some nerve, you son of a bitch. Kyoshiro watched the two daggers with purple light coming towards him. Thanks, Mountain. His eyes flashed. With your power, I will end this nightmare. Kyoshiro created a violent tremor. Seiya watched. Who's supposed to be the boss again? Seems he used something to temporarily boost himself. I'd just get in the way if I tried to help. Kyoshiro looked at Void with his sword. We're both people who love Central Sword, so show me what you got, Kingslayer. Void said, what the hell are you? For what reason do you think I got this power? Kyoshiro looked at his glowing sword. In reality, this power feels incredible. It almost feels like I became a human bullet, but I think I only have about a minute of this. I need to end this before then. Void angrily attacked Kyoshiro wildly, and the system displayed, activating great swords of the underworld. Don't you ignore me. Kyoshiro defended against Void's attacks. The attacks are becoming more predictable. It really must be a real person since their attacks grow simpler as they get angrier. Void looked confused, and while Hollow uses skills, Kyoshiro slashed across Void's face with his sword. They can't move. Kyoshiro said, I don't know who you are, but surrender, Hollow, and let everyone go. Minami's face gradually appeared, her eyes brimming with tears. Kyoshiro stared in astonishment. The ruler of this world, Void, will grant you whatever you desire. Minami, cloaked, turned away. A wish. She looked up. Power. Her hand caressed a glowing item. This is the legendary SSR item. The system displayed, item clothing of the Thunder Emperor. A clothing made by the skin of a rat that emits electricity. When equipped, the user will be given a lightning element. They have a rare chance of dropping from the chests in Nightmare. He held the cloak in his hand, crying, I was searching all over for this in the game, and I couldn't find it, but in this moment, he shouted, there's no way I could do that. Seiya watched silently. Having to fight someone in the game and in real life is different. Normally it shouldn't even be possible for. Minami smiled eerily. What a name. Spoiled brat. The system notified, the area boss Hollow is activating a legendary skill. She flew up, her cloak fluttering, with skeletal monsters moving below. I can't stand you any longer. You piss me off. I'm going to kill you. Seiya slashed at the skeletons. What is this? Numerous skeletal monsters surrounded them. I am Nightmare itself. This area is my power. Memories flashed back as she remembered being helpless beside Kanazaki's body. If I had just been stronger back then, this never would've. He gritted his teeth, slashing at monsters. Take my little sister and run away. Kanazaki smiled gently. Minami closed her eyes tightly. A skeletal hand reached out and grabbed her ankle. She was pulled down. Damn it. Seiya, distracted, turned. Kingslayer. Minami smiled. You're a bit troublesome to deal with, after all. She looked down, her foot on his chest. What a beautiful sight. She was bewildered. You are just a brat playing a game. Whereas I am determined to do anything to avenge my family. That's our difference. He gritted his teeth. What should I do for her? She raised her hand, summoning swords. This is the end. See you, brat. I can't attack her. I want to save her, but... A loud noise startled everyone. Determined. Don't make me laugh, criminal. This voice is... The system notified, skill Flames of Hell has been activated. Minami screamed in the raging fire. My restraints are gone. But, Seiya winced in pain. Flamethrower. Will my water enchantment work against it? I'm coming to save you, Kingslayer. The fire blazed intensely, her eyes serious. The red-masked man appeared, raising his sword. It's time for execution. She continued to smile. The masked bastard has finally appeared. Just you wait. I'm going to kill you. She collapsed on the ground, facing the masked man. Are those your last words? What a fitting disgraceful end for a criminal. She bowed her head, tears welling in her eyes. A breeze blew through, and Minami froze. He helped block the sword for her. I won't let you. His eyes glowed with blue light. Why are you getting in my way again? Do you not know how many people that girl has killed? He shouted. She deserves the death penalty. If she's still alive, We still have some time. It hasn't been that long since I arrived at this stage. I need to stop the executioner at all costs. The giant king sat under the tree. Mountain, lend me your power. This is the second time. Your body won't last, you know. I don't care. There's someone I promised to protect. He clenched his fist. I warned you. In a loud scream, skill demonization has been activated. He shouted, the blood in my body feels like it's boiling. This isn't a power that people from real life could take, but even so. A sword descended in a flash of lightning. I won't let you kill her. He blocked the attack with his sword, an enhancement type skill, that power. However, criminals do not deserve mercy. The masked man shouted, don't get in the way of the execution. A golden light surrounded by lightning emanated. I know that you are on the side of justice. However, I won't take even a single step back. An explosion occurred, and Seiya raised her hand to shield herself. I will keep everyone alive this time. Seiya shouted, Kingslayer. He sat trembling on the ground. She ran over, get a hold of yourself. The skeleton soldiers are all gone. Let's get out of here for now. She embraced him, shielding him from the masked man. Did you think I'd let you get away? The masked man raised his sword high. I can't move my body at all. Is this because I borrowed too much of Mountain's power? What are you saying? Run away. The sword descended, and she hugged him tightly, closing her eyes. Minami ran over, the sword slashing her back. That image reflected in his eyes.